What's up guys, my name is Ace, and ever since the Lockman Shroud was added to Modern Warfare 2, I've really been enjoying using it. It's been nice to have a super solid, viable burst weapon in the game, and I found it really refreshing, so much so that I decided to revisit the M16 and give it a shot, since I haven't really given it too much of an honest shot since the first month or so of the game being out, when it was absolutely horrible. And over the months, I was aware of little buffs that it was getting here or there, but those buffs have really added up at this point, and it turns out the M16 is actually quite a solid gun right now. So I did want to revisit this, and there's a couple setups I wanted to share that I have fully optimized with the new stats in mind. And diving right into this, let's talk about some of the key changes that have been made throughout the course of the year when it comes to the M16. The first change is they very noticeably cut down on the burst delay, which means it's much less punishing if you miss that first burst or if you require a second burst to kill. At launch, that burst delay was roughly 160 milliseconds, which is insanely long when you consider the fact that the average time to kill in this game is about 200 milliseconds. However, they've now cut that down to 80 milliseconds, so there is still a delay there, and there is still some risk attached to not getting a one burst kill, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. And this does make the M16 noticeably more spammable. You're not completely screwed if you don't get a one burst kill. Additionally, they have improved the accuracy of the M16, particularly with the horizontal recoil. There's a lot less horizontal bounce, which just makes each burst a lot more predictable and more likely for all three bullets to be landing where you want them to land. And then on top of this, they increased our range values. And taking a look at it right here, the first damage range, where we can get a one burst kill as long as we're hitting anywhere in the torso, this extends out to 29.5 meters now, which is pretty solid. This is actually going to cover probably most of the gunfights you'll find on the average multiplayer map in this game. But then we still have a one burst kill potential out to just about 50 meters. However, with this one, you have to make sure you're landing some upper torso shots if you want to maintain a one burst kill. You can also see here with our time to kill, if we manage to get a one burst kill, we're killing insanely fast for an assault rifle. This is actually the fastest assault rifle time to kill in the game at 148 milliseconds. So there's huge potential there if you can get a one burst. But if it does take you that fourth shot to kill and you do have to get that second burst out, your time to kill is 302 milliseconds, which is admittedly a bit on the slow side, but it's not unreasonably slow like it used to be when we had that much longer burst delay. And like I said, all of these little buffs that they've made to the M16 have really been adding up over time, and on their own, they weren't really enough to completely reinvent the M16 and make it suddenly a great gun. But when you add them up, the M16's in a pretty solid spot right now, and I'd highly recommend revisiting this and giving it a shot if it's something you might be interested in. I know at this stage of the game, things can be quite stale, and you might want to try branching out and trying some new things just to breathe a little bit of life into the game. So let's get into a couple brand new class setups that I've created and optimized with tuning for you guys for two different playstyle types. And the first build I'm going to be sharing is my new balanced aggression build. With this, you want to try to keep yourself within that maximum damage range, so roughly 30 meters or so. And as long as you do that, your accuracy should hold up just fine with this gun. It's not the most accurate version of the gun, but it is slightly more accurate than the base recoil on it. For our muzzle, we have the Corvus /Gen 2 muzzle. And while this doesn't give us the best possible recoil control, it also doesn't really hurt our aim down sight speed that much. And we want to make sure we're getting a solid aim down sight speed here since we're bein aggressive. We have the Sharkfin underbarrel, the OLEV laser, the Torrent Span 9 stock, and the X10 rear grip. And you can see all of the areas that I'm tuning for as well. And with this, we got a very solid aim down sight speed as far as the M16 goes at 255 milliseconds. Our sprint out speed is also very fast. And like I said, the accuracy, at least within that maximum damage range where we should be trying to keep ourselves with this build, is great. You should be able to get those one burst kills reasonably consistently if you've got a good shot. And recently playing around with this, I've found a lot of success, especially on some of the smaller maps with the shorter engagement distances. Now, if aggression isn't really your style or the map doesn't really call for a build like this, I also wanted to share my brand new accuracy build that I created. And this one is excellent for just hanging back, locking down lanes, and picking people off quite effectively even at really long ranges. And with that in mind, I should also mention that I managed to keep things reasonably balanced here. You could technically get more accurate with this, but then you'd have such a terrible aim down sight speed, for instance, that you'd be useless if you ever get caught off guard while not aiming down sight. So with this particular build, we have the X10 ported 290 muzzle. This is the best possible muzzle for this gun if you're going for the best possible recoil. We once again have that OLED laser, the Slimline Pro optic, although this one is preference-based, you could use a different optic if you'd like. We once again have that Torrent Span 9 stock, and very importantly with this build, we have the D15 rear grip. And the key part of this grip is it helps with flinch resistance, which turns out to be quite important with this gun, especially between bursts. You don't want to be flinched up above the enemy's head if they manage to land some shots on you. And I just find this keeps you on target far more consistently to ensure that you're only taking 1 or 2 bursts to kill rather than like 4 or 5 bursts to kill. Now with this, like I said, I managed to keep the aim down sight speed at least somewhat reasonable at 310 milliseconds. And most importantly, we have almost no idle sway while aiming down sight with this gun. That's very important with a burst gun. And on top of that, our new recoil is very, very good. While there is some inconsistency with a single burst, you can see that we have the potential to have a nearly pinpoint accurate burst. And even if you end up spamming this, there's very little recoil to that as well. It's really easy to slightly pull down on your aim to compensate for that. And like I said, even if you have somebody at really long ranges across the map, you should generally be able to kill them in 2 bursts. Sometimes it might even take you 3 bursts, but if we're talking really long ranges, that's usually still very viable. You'll still take them out, no problem. So there we go, that is going to wrap it up for this video. I definitely feel like the M16 deserved a revisit when it came to this, especially since I haven't really touched on it at all, aside from mentioning the little updates here or there. And this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. First up, have you guys tried out the M16 recently, and what are your thoughts on it? And second, are there any other guns that you feel are really underrated at this point? Guns that maybe were in a bad state previously, but they've had some buffs and now they're actually in a great state and not many people realize that yet? Or maybe even guns that you just feel have been flying under the radar the whole time? If you know of a gun like that, please let me know and perhaps I'll do another video revisiting similar to this one. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.